And welcome back to the show. Our next guest is a high school student, an activist, a dancer, and a writer. And she recently wrote her first book, her first children's book, actually, that's based on her own experience, as well as the experiences of families and children with varied racial, ethnic, and religious backgrounds. Joining us now and sharing us more details is the activist and author of RayRay Paints a Self-Portrait, RayRay Fofana. And we thank you, Ray, for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, well, usually when we hear people write a book, we usually hear them, adults, older adults, but you decide to tackle the issue early and say, I want to write about these experiences, my experiences. And so congratulations, first and foremost, on the book. And tell us a little bit about why you decided to write it.
So I wrote the book because growing up, I felt like when I saw families that were represented in children's books that were from diverse backgrounds, it was never conveyed in a way that was normal. And I think that given like the social political climate of our country right now, and kind of looking back at what my younger self most wanted, I think it was to see a book that showcased unconventional families in a way that was normal. So
Yeah. And so you decided to write a book that was based on some of your experiences and life experiences and the experiences of others. So give us a little bit to the background as to how this all came about.
So I think it was during the pandemic of last year, and I was just thinking about myself and other young people who were kind of experiencing not only this period of isolation, but this period of like uproar and social change. And I think that in thinking about that, I was trying to see what I could do that was impactful, but also meaningful and relevant to who I am as a person. And I think it's really hard to um, stay motivated, especially during times like this. And I think what I most wanted to do was think about what, again, like my younger self and other young people could really use, whether that be like a book or a project or something else that was inspiring, but also inclusive. And so I think in thinking about that, I started to brainstorm and started kind of throw ideas together, and then the whole idea of like a book started to come about.
Yeah. And so for somebody who doesn't know about the book, give us a little bit of the contents and what people can expect.
So the book kind of uses hair as a vehicle to showcase intersecting cultures and religious backgrounds. And the whole like story of the book is that RayRay, or my younger self, is basically trying to navigate not looking like anybody else in terms of hair or like even within her own family. And so her story of is kind of going around to different family members and comparing herself hair wise and trying to figure out where her hair comes from. And in doing that, it also showcases like the culture and background of the family as well. So
Yeah. And so for people who experience reading your book or you want to have a takeaway from that moment, what are you hoping that people are able to actually transcend through the experience of reading the book and understanding some of your life experiences?
I hope that people can take away, especially other people of color, that like their story doesn't necessarily have to be like mine, or that it's not one dimensional, and that like it's really just about, I guess, being different. And that whether you come from like a white family or an interracial family, that like you don't have to know who you are, and there's something that's really special about embracing that. And I think that for me personally, I hope that other kids who have come from unique families, or even just families that are different, that they can take away that it's normal to not be normal, or like embrace, I guess, being different.
Yeah. And how long was it for you in terms of embracing your identity? How long did it take for you to really find out, hey, this is who I am and I'm comfortable in my own skin?
I think I'm still doing that now. I think from like that kind of journey in middle school or elementary school through middle school and now like in high school, I think I'm still navigating that. But I think that I'm secure in kind of knowing that I don't have to know exactly who I am at this moment in time. And I think that having like a family and tons of role models who have always encouraged me to pursue like my passions, and also just to like embrace who I am regardless of what that may mean, has really helped me start to come to terms with my identity.
Yeah. And so, if people want to get the book, what is the best way for them to really latch on and connect?
So the book is available on Amazon. I'm pretty sure it's also available on Barnes and Nobles. And if you just look up RayRay Paints a Self-Portrait, I'm pretty sure it's online as well.
Yeah. And so, where do you go from here now that you have your first book out? I mean, I know you're doing, your promotion and getting people to really latch in and connect with the book. But what do you see on the horizon for you?
I think moving forward, I definitely want to make more children's books. It's definitely a passion of mine. As far as like career wise, I think I might like, I kind of want to be a lawyer, which is very different from writing children's books, but I still hope that it's a part of my endeavors moving forward.
Yeah. Give the audience a little bit, our audience a little bit about what it means to find your voice. What has that been for you like to find your voice, to be able to articulate it, and then to be able to share it with the masses?
I think finding your voice is more about looking at who you are in the world, and not even necessarily how the world perceives you, but how you want to be seen in the world. And I think like it is still hard and I'm still trying to find mine, but I think that learning and like listening to other people who have really developed their voices has helped me kind of figure out what mine is by having so many amazing like role models in my life.
Yeah. And so what was the turning point for you in saying, listen, I can really share this with somebody else and somebody else can really benefit from this. Was there a turning point or a turning experience that made you say, now I gotta write the book, I gotta do this?
I think looking back at some of my like moments in my childhood, specifically one interaction I had with like a school um lunch aide, who I remember I was either buying lunch, and because I come from a Muslim and Jewish background, you're like it's a religious thing to not really eat like pork. And I remember buying lunch and explaining to my lunch aide that like, oh, I'm not going to have this meal because it has pork in it. And then she was like, oh, well, I thought, that you had like an entirely Black family. Like I thought you guys um were, I don't know, that you ate those types of things. And I just kind of remember realizing that after explaining it to her, she was so shocked that I never wanted to feel, even though she didn't mean for it to be like that, ostracized like that. And I think that now looking at cousins or family members who are young and who are still navigating experiences like that, I really wanted to do something that made it seem like coming from a background like this was normal. And so I think that this book was my attempt at that.
Well, Ray, thank you so much for, sharing your story, and hopefully other people will be able to tune in and find out more about you, your work, and how you can also are advocating for children. So thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
All righty, Ray Fofana, our guest here. Now, if you want more information, visit her website at rayrayseries.com, and then follow her on Instagram at RayRay Tells Stories.